Good morning. Welcome again to Morning Devotions. And thank you again so much for our time together. Well, Revival Nights at Main Campus tonight. I'll be preaching on the Father of Heavenly Lights. We'll look forward to seeing you there. And then Sister Pat is preaching at Main Campus tomorrow night. Great services. We'll look forward to you being with us. Right now, I want us to go back to a couple of verses. Jeremiah chapter 39, verse 10. Then Nebuchadnezzar, the commander of the guard, left behind in the land of Judah some of the poor people who owned nothing. And at that time he gave them vineyards and fields. And then we come over here to chapter 40, beginning with verse 7. When all the army officials and their men who were still in the open company heard that the king of Babylon had appointed Gedaliah, son of Ahikam, as the governor over the land, and had put him in charge of the men, women, and children who were the poorest in the land, and who had not been carried off into exile in Babylon. One of the principles that you find as you go through the Old Testament is when a king wanted to conquer a country and keep that country weak and subject, he would come in, he would conquer the capital cities, and he would take all of the nobles, he would take all of the rich businessmen, he would take all of the wealth out of the country, and he would leave in the land the poorest of the poor. Now, the reason for that is these people are never going to rise up and come against him. But he leaves the poorest of the poor in the land so that the land will not be overrun, so that the land will still be worked and wild animals, so that the land won't go wild again. He leaves people in the land to keep the land, but he leaves people that will never rise up against him. 35 years ago, when Overseas Workers Program began and people wanted to immigrate to America and Canada and Australia and the Middle East, I was very strongly against it, and still am today, because it did what we call in modern terms a brain drain. A brain drain is how Satan weakens a nation and keeps a nation down. When you take all the brains out of a nation and move them into another nation, that's how you build that nation. And nations have learned this with immigration today. You look at nations like America, Canada, Australia, they want our PhDs, they want our top business people because they know these people will go there and build that nation. But at some point, if we're going to be Pinoy, we have to realize we need to stay in the land and build this land. We need to say, wait a minute, why should the best and the brightest leave the land and go someplace else and find greener pastures? Why don't we make greener pastures right here?